Saturday, October 29th, we get Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. Now look, I'll be the first to admit, I didn't see this one coming. Did not expect that we were going to see Anderson Silva and Jake Paul in a boxing match. Didn't expect it 4 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. No way at any point in time that I think that this fight would materialize. But here we are. Right, first we saw Tommy Fury drop out. Then we saw Hakeem Rockman Jr. That one fell through. Then we get Anderson Silva, dude. And it's funny because Brendan Schaub, of all people, dude, Brendan Schaub claims that he was talking to Jake Paul backstage at some kind of comedy event that he was at. I don't know if they were both there, if it was a comedy show that Brendan Schaub was doing, whatever the case may be. They were at this completely unrelated event. And he said he's talking to him, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said that basically what he told him was, look, man, you're not going to get any respect from people from real fighters or people who are real fight fans unless you go out there and you beat somebody who's legitimate. So you want to go out there, you want to do something serious, you want to go out there, you want to beat a man who's going to put a name on your resume that's really going to mean something, that's going to actually have a lot of respect from people. Go out there and beat Anderson Silva. Now look, I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with that, but he's saying that that's what he told him. Obviously, if that's the case, he took the advice, and lo and behold, here's the fight that we have. Now, let me also go on the record as saying I'm not a fan of it. Not really a big fan. Anderson Silva is an absolute legend, man. He is, dude, I mean, you want to call him the GOAT? A lot of people aren't going to argue with that. Maybe some days I'm not going to argue with that. Other days you may want to look at a guy like John Jones and say that he's the GOAT. Nevertheless, you have to give Anderson Silva the utmost respect. Dude, he is on MMA Mount Rushmore. No doubt about it. When you go back and you watch some of those fights, when Anderson Silva was in his prime, he was a sight to behold. The man was like a wizard out there. Remember the knees that he put on Rich Franklin to win the belt? I mean, he put knees on him the second time as well. Remember what he did to Travis Lutter? Remember what he did to Chael Sonnen? Remember what he did to Forrest Griffin? What about when he just randomly decided to move up in weight and fight a super juice to the gills Stephen Bonner? And what'd he do to him? Kneed him in the solar plexus, out of there, finishes him. Made it look like it was easy, man. Like it's just a walk in the park. Oh, I'm just strolling down the street. Let me go ahead and jump in the octagon and just smoke this professional fighter and make it look like it's easy. That's who Anderson Silva was, right? A sniper, explosive, elusive. Just coming with this unpredictability, and he was so smooth and so sharp. Master of the 8 limbs. No doubt about it. But that's not the Anderson Silva that we last saw in the octagon, right? If we're keeping it real, if we're being honest with each other, the last Anderson Silva that we saw in the octagon had declined, right? He had fell a little bit off of the mountaintop, and that's to be expected. I mean, he's 47 years old now, but he started to decline a little bit earlier, right? I mean, we can look back at that first fight with Weidman, and we can see him getting caught in there, even before the clowning. Even before he ends up getting caught and put out, we can see that he was getting caught a little bit. We can see at other times in fights he was getting a little bit lazy, eating more shots than he should have. Like when he wanted to, dude, his defensiveness was so elusive, just master level head movement, right? I mean, he would go out there and he would be able to clown at times, just play with guys. But he started to slow down a little bit. Reflexes don't become quite what they used to be. And if you don't have that fundamentally sound defense, you're going to get caught every now and then. He started to get caught more as time went on. We eventually saw him caught and put out by Weidman. We saw him with the incredibly nasty leg break in the rematch. We saw Jaron Cannonier catch him. We saw Uriah Hall catch him in his last fight in the UFC. So he ends up going over to boxing. Had a few fights now. So really the fight that everybody likes to focus on is this one with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And I get it. I understand why. Everybody's like, look at what Anderson Silva did to a former world champion in his own sport. Silva moves over, had like, 1 or 2 fights or something like that. He had an old one all the way back in 2005. Then he comes back and he fights Julio Cesar Chavez. Now, let me say a few things here. Number 1, that fight was at cruiserweight. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was a world champion at 160 pounds. When he went out there and he smoked Andy Lee, hit him with the brutal left hook to the body, when he was out there really making moves, making waves, making a name for himself, training under Freddie Roach, that's the Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. that people talk about when they refer to a world champion. They're not talking about the guy who got lazy, who got complacent, Waking up in the middle of the day, walking around in his pink underwear, holding training sessions in his living room, just moves the couch out of the way. Missing sessions with Freddie Roach. That's not the guy we're talking about. We're not talking about the guy who lost to Fonfara. Or I should say that is the guy that we're talking about, right? We're talking about the guy that lost to Fonfara. We're talking about the guy that lost to a whole host of people. He fell off, dude. And it's because he chose to, right? He just wasn't. The only thing I can assume, look, I mean, I wasn't there. All right, I don't want to make it seem as though I was. I don't want to speak too harshly. But we saw the amount of talent that the man had. Remember back when he was working with, who was it, Trevor Ariza, the strength and conditioning coach? Like I said, he was training with Freddie Roach. I mean, dude, he was a beast, man. Lots of skill. Was he as good as his father? No, but I mean, whatever. That's neither here nor there. When Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was at his best, when he was focused, when he was training, when he was locked in, he was a very good fighter. He was world class. He was a beast at 160 pounds, man. He was trouble to deal with. He was big, he was strong, and he knows how to fight. Just that easy. But that wasn't always the case, and as the career went on, the only thing I can imagine is that he lost focus. He just wasn't dedicated anymore. He was probably partying too much. He's got the wife and the kids, and he's doing this and that, and it's just like he's got money. Whatever, right? We saw the things that ended up happening to him, and then we saw that last fight I don't know if it was his last fight. Man, I haven't even been paying attention to him forever, but we saw that fight with Anderson Silva. And if we're being honest with each other, Anderson Silva looked good in a lot of spots, right? I mean, he was elusive like we expect. He was a sniper like we've come to know. His punching was sharp and crisp. He's got a very high ring IQ. The man knows how to fight. Dude, he could be 80 years old. His body could completely fail him. He could be in a cane. He could be in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter. He's going to know how to fight forever. He's never going to lose that. Even when he can no longer fight, he's still going to know how to fight, right? He's still going to have that ring IQ. And as long as he has the physical ability, he's going to showcase that in some way, shape, or form. We saw that in the boxing match. We saw that he still understands angles. He understands distance, how to control the gap. He understands how to throw combinations, how to move out of the way. He was still using some good hand movement at times. But we also saw a lot of flaws. We saw a lot of flaws in his game. We saw that he doesn't keep his hands up. We saw that he gets out of balance a lot of times, gets over the front of his feet. We saw that his footwork becomes a little bit awkward. We saw that he's far slower than he used to be. His feet are far slower. Hands are far slower. Head movement is far slower. You know, I'll say it one more time. This isn't the Anderson Silva of old. This isn't the Anderson Silva that took the world by storm. That man existed and he will always be there. All you got to do is turn on the film and watch. But that's not the guy that we're looking at today. That's not the guy that's stepping in the ring at 47 years old on the 29th with Jake Paul. Right? Jake Paul's 25 years old. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's probably more motivated. He's the guy who has everything going behind him. He's the guy who went out and chose Anderson Silva. Look, Jake Paul's got a good team behind him, man. Say whatever you want about the guy. He's got a good team behind him. People who do this for a living, people who are professionals. They understand exactly who it is that they're working with, exactly the task that they've been given. This fight was picked just like all of the other ones. This opponent was picked just like all of the other ones for a variety of reasons. But first and foremost, it's because he thinks he can win the fight. He's not going out there and taking fights that he thinks he can lose. Everything goes away for Jake Paul. He loses. Everything goes up in smoke. Dude, this guy has huge plans. Now, whether or not he's going to be able to succeed with those, whether or not he's going to be able to reach the mountaintop that he wants to reach, I have no idea. But I know that he's got those plans. And I know that those plans are contingent on him winning fights. So when he picks Anderson Silva, it's because he thinks he can win. And I hate to say it, man, but I think he's going to win too. I really do. And it's just this simple. Like I said, he's younger. He's stronger, and he has a game plan to win. I went out there, you watch his fights, and you understand that he's getting better by leaps and bounds. But that's what you expect from a guy who's starting out. You can understand he has good athletic ability. Like I said, he's strong. He's got some speed to him. He's got quick twitch muscle fibers. And you can see that he's throwing his punches better and better. They're more crisp. They're more straight. His combinations are better. He understands angles a little bit more. He moves around. You know he's getting world-class, maybe not world-class sparring. He's getting very good sparring. He's getting all the sparring he can handle and probably a little bit more. The guys that he's working with know exactly what to do. Dude, I was watching the preview for this one, right? The show that Showtime puts out, kind of building this one up, came out a few days ago. He's in there sparring with Chad Dawson. Some of you guys may not remember bad Chad Dawson. He was the man. I get it. He got smoked. He ended up getting caught. knocked out in a few fights, never quite the same. Go back and look at the boxing skill that he had. His boxing was beautiful when he was on point. Bad Chad knows how to move around that ring. He knows how to throw punches. He knows how to get work done. Very good work. Very good sparring partner for a man like Jake Paul going into a fight with Anderson Silva. I was highly impressed when I saw that. I thought, man, his team knows exactly who to... That was a good one. His team knew exactly who to get, man. Chad Dawson is a great sparring partner for a guy like Jake Paul at this point in his career going into this fight with Anderson Silva. So look, in that same episode, you see some things. Now, keep in mind, this is an 8-round fight. I think that goes in Jake Paul's favor. Okay, should this go 10 rounds or 12 rounds? Dude's going to get gassed, man. He's not going to be able to make it. He doesn't know how to pace himself. And part of the reason that his fight plan is built on work rate. He was in there working during that little bit of footage, and we saw a few interesting things. Number one, we saw his coach telling him, he's giving you those body shots, take those body shots. Right? He said that repeatedly. Now, maybe to a lot of those people that don't stand out, but people who've watched Anderson Silva fights understand exactly what that means. He gives you a lot of free shots, and he's got great head movement. So when he's calling you in, right? We saw that with Julio Cesar Chavez, and we've seen it in numerous UFC fights. When he's standing there and puts his back against the ropes, and he's calling you in, come in, get good work done. And that's not throwing punches at his head, because what he wants you to do is he wants to bait you in to throw a punch so he can slip and move. He's a natural counterpuncher. He needs you to be aggressive. When guys aren't aggressive, the fights are horrible. So he's calling you in. He's trying to let you get that work done. Go to the body. His feet are planted at those moments. He's not going to be able to move. Go to the body. So he understands that he needs to go to the body. That's huge. And the other thing is the work rate. Jake Paul himself said it. He said he can't keep up with that work rate. Right now, he said it after some round when he was doing an incredible amount of work. But you got to understand, he's training to have a super high work rate, and he understands that overwhelming Anderson Silva is going to be the answer to winning this fight. His plan isn't to go out there and knock this guy out. It's not to go out there and outbox him. It's not to go out there and be a better sniper than Anderson Silva. You ain't going to beat him in his own game. Not Jake Paul. But he's strong. He can crack. He's young. He's got the cardio on his side. He's motivated. He can go out there and he can outwork him for 8 rounds. An old, 47-year-old Anderson Silva. He can go out there and he can outwork him for 8 rounds in a boxing ring. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. So, man, I really, really, really hope we do not see Anderson Silva get caught with anything nasty. He's been knocked out a lot. He's been taking a lot of punishment late in his career. I don't want to say that he's chinny, but he's taking a lot of shots, man. You know, he used to be able to just eat all of them, but eventually they catch up to you. And like I said, Jake Paul can crack, so I really, truly hope that he does not end up eating any bad shots. Certainly hope he doesn't get face planted or anything like that. I'd love to see the man come out with a win, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think this one's getting set up and made for Jake Paul to win. I think he's going to show up. Who's he going to call out afterwards? How is that all going to be set up? I'm sure he's got a whole thing prepared, a whole speech, a whole something he wants to talk about in the post-fight. We're going to have to wait and see. I've got no idea. But I do think he comes out with the victory on this one, and the Jake Paul train rolls on. He's going off at like minus, 175 in the money line. There's a lot of value to be had there. Think about that one. So let me know what you guys think. Am I underestimating what Anderson Silva is going to bring? Am I overestimating what Jake Paul brings to the table? Let me know.